once 25 tin soldiers, all cast from the same old spoon and placed together in a box. They were identical in every detail, except one. Because there had not been quite enough metal at the end, the last soldier had only one leg, yet he stood as firmly as any of the others, straight-backed and silent, with the grave courage of one who has no choice but to remain upright. Before them on the nursery table stood a paper castle, and within it a delicate dancer balanced on one leg. Seeing her there, the little tin soldier believed he had found another soul who knew how to endure beautifully. The paper dancer was cut so lightly and painted so delicately that she seemed almost made of breath and moonlight. One arm was raised, one leg hidden behind her skirts, and from where the soldier stood, she appeared to balance on a single leg exactly as he did. He said nothing, of course. Tin soldiers are not given to speeches, but his gaze remained fixed upon her through the evening, loyal and astonished. In the quiet world of toys, where shadows lengthened across the room and candlelight flickered gently, a small and solemn affection had already taken root. Not far from the paper castle stood a black snuff-box, and from within it there lived a little goblin with sharp eyes and a sour temper. He noticed at once where the soldier's attention rested, and the sight displeased him greatly. That night, when the nursery had gone dark and all sensible creatures ought to have slept, the goblin sprang from the box and hissed at the tin soldier to keep his eyes to himself. But the soldier did not answer. He had not moved all day, and he would not move now. Some forms of courage are loud, others are simply the refusal to turn away. The next day, whether by mischief, chance, or the goblin's silent revenge, the one-legged soldier found himself placed upon the window-sill. Below lay the street, deep and uncertain. A sudden gust blew through the room, the window flew open wider, and the tin soldier fell headfirst into the world outside. He struck the pavement below and remained standing on his single leg between the stones, his musket still in his hand. Rain clouds gathered overhead, wheels rolled past, feet hurried by. Yet even in that strange and hostile new world he did not collapse. He stood where he had fallen, as brave things often must. Soon 2 boys found him in the street. Delighted by the discovery, they folded a paper boat, placed the soldier inside it, and sent him sailing down the rushing gutter water. What had begun as a nursery table romance became, in an instant, a dangerous voyage. The paper walls shook beneath him. The water surged dark and fast. Rain fell harder. The little soldier stood in the center of the fragile craft, grave and motionless, while the city washed past in blurred reflections. He did not cry out. Whether from discipline, dignity, or helplessness, he faced the current as he had faced everything else, without complaint. The gutter narrowed and rushed toward a drain so black and deep that it seemed like the mouth of the earth itself. The soldier could hear the roaring water before he saw the opening. The paper boat spun, dipped, and was pulled forward with terrible speed. Any lesser passenger might have panicked, but the little tin soldier remained upright, though the water climbed around him, and the boat began to soften under the strain. When it reached the drain, darkness swallowed him whole. He passed from rain and daylight into echoing tunnels, borne onward by a force no courage could resist. In the blackness beneath the street, a great water rat appeared and demanded to know whether the soldier had a passport and had paid the toll. The rat chattered angrily and bared its teeth, but the soldier gave no answer. He could not, and perhaps he would not. The current pulled him past while the rat pursued along the stones, shrieking after him in fury. It was a grotesque little parody of the world above, where officials, papers, and permissions so often trouble the helpless. Yet the soldier passed beyond even that mockery, carried toward a fate more final than bureaucracy. At last the paper boat, soaked through and trembling on the edge of ruin, gave way entirely. It folded around the little soldier and sank. Water closed over his head. The current rolled him downward into the dark. For a moment he vanished completely, as though the story had no intention of returning him to light. Yet even then, Andersen does not let us forget his strange nobility. The soldier sinks not with drama, but with composure, like a small emblem of fidelity, descending into a world that has never promised to reward it. Then, in one absurd and sudden turn worthy of fairy tales alone, a great fish swallowed him whole. Inside the creature's dark belly the soldier lay in silence, more cut off from the world than ever before. Time passed strangely there. He could see nothing, hear only the muffled movements of water and flesh, and yet he continued to exist, still intact, still holding his musket, still in some impossible way, maintaining the dignity with which he had first stood in the toy box. It is one of Andersen's peculiar gifts that he can make even such grotesque misfortune feel touched by pathos. At last the fish was caught, sold in the market, and brought into a kitchen where it was laid upon a table and cut open. To everyone's astonishment, the little tin soldier tumbled out into the light. And wonder of wonders, he had returned to the very same house from which he had fallen. The room was familiar, the table was the same, the paper castle still stood, and there, just as before, was the dancer. The soldier said nothing, of course, yet the whole journey seemed to gather itself into that one impossible return, as if fate had circled back for reasons still unreadable. He stood once more upon the nursery table, facing the paper dancer whose image had accompanied him through storm, darkness, tunnels, and the belly of a fish. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had changed. He had crossed the world and returned, but still he could not step closer, and still she remained poised in her castle like a fragile promise. If there was recognition between them, it passed in silence. Their whole story had always lived in silence. That, perhaps, is what makes it so moving. Some of the deepest attachments in fairy tales are never spoken aloud. Then, without warning or reason, the child took the tin soldier and threw him into the fire. Why? Andersen does not explain. In his tales, fate is often as arbitrary as it is merciless. The soldier landed among the flames, where the heat surrounded him at once. He looked toward the paper dancer. She looked toward him. A door flew open somewhere, and a draught of wind caught her. Like a white leaf or a final thought, she drifted from the paper castle straight into the fire beside him. There, at last, the distance between them was gone. The flames curled around tin and paper alike. The dancer blackened and vanished almost at once, while the soldier glowed red with heat, still holding his form as long as he could. It is a cruel ending, yet also a strangely tender one. What life had denied them in nearness, destruction granted in a final and terrible union. No vows were exchanged, no promises spoken, no future opened before them. There was only fire, and within it the completion of something quiet, faithful, and doomed from the very beginning. When the maid cleaned the hearth the next morning, she found among the ashes a small piece of tin in the shape of a heart. Beside it lay the dancer's burnt spangle, black as coal. That was all. Yet it was enough. The entire tale seemed somehow gathered into those two remains. steadfastness melted into love, fragility reduced to a dark little star. Andersen rarely softens sorrow, but he knows how to leave behind an image that keeps sorrow luminous. The heart in the ashes is one such image, small enough to miss, powerful enough never to forget. The Steadfast Tin Soldier is not a tale of victory. The soldier is not rewarded with life, marriage, or peace. He endures, returns, and is destroyed. Yet the story does not feel empty. It feels tragic in the old fairy tale sense, where value lies not in success, but in the manner of one's bearing. The little soldier never complains, never betrays his devotion, never abandons his posture of dignity. That is what makes him steadfast, and that is why his fate, though sorrowful, carries a kind of nobility that lingers long after the story ends. So the one-legged tin soldier passes from toy to symbol, from nursery object to one of Andersen's quiet tragic heroes. His story moves through absurdity, danger, tenderness, and fire. But at its center remains a simple, unwavering truth. Fidelity may not save us, and yet it may still define us. In that sense, the tale belongs among Andersen's saddest and most beautiful works. It asks for no laughter and offers no easy comfort. Instead, it leaves us with a tiny heart in the ashes, and with the memory of a figure who stood upright through every storm.